Batman Cape Crusader. So I want to talk about this because originally I was going to do, I know this is a movie crap short, but like an actual YouTube short. And I'd be like, this show's fine, whatever, I don't know. And that was the plan. If Ryan Walterson asked me, and I was like, that's what I think I should do. He was like, makes sense. And then I watched a few, the first one, and I was like, I don't know how I feel about this. And then I watched the second one and I liked it. And then I watched the third one and I liked it, but it was written not great, or structured not great, let me say. I have complicated feelings basically about Batman Cape Crusader. I think from the onset when I saw drawings, I was like, this sort of looks a little too much like the animated series. And that's sort of one of my issues with it. And honestly, the three big executive producers and the first credited in this theme song, which is odd, it literally starts off with executive producer J.J. Abrams. Then it goes executive producer Matt Reeves, and then it goes executive producer Bruce Timm. And kind of my issue with this is like, I like Matt Reeves as the Batman, and it is definitely different from Nolan and Tim Burton, but it's still dark. It's like, is David Fincher's dark, edgy, Frank Miller influenced Batman any different from Tim Burton's dark, edgy, Frank Miller influenced Batman, or Christopher Nolan's dark, edgy, Frank Miller influenced Batman? And I kind of feel the same way about this, where it's like, I feel like Batman is a much more interesting character than we get cinematically or animation. And I would like, okay, I know Neil Adams influenced Frank Miller, but I would love to see Neil Adams, Batman with the blue and gray cape and cowl kind of thing, or like something different. But this is like, it's like, okay, we moved animated series a little off to the side, but it's basically the same fucking thing. And I just don't understand why we need this. It like confuses me, because it's like so much like what animated series did. I'm often sitting there like, I don't get why we would fucking make this. It just doesn't make any sense to me. It's like we're gonna have this IP, or these characters like Batman, Superman, Spider-Man, and they're gonna just keep coming back and keep having different things. I often wonder, like, well, what are we going to do with these characters? How are we changing them for the times? And it feels like Batman's kind of stuck in this, like, the animated series is the most distinctive, and this kind of Frank Miller one's the most distinctive, and that's just what we're sticking with, and I'm sorry there's nothing else. But it's like, well, why just keep doing that? It just doesn't make a lot of sense. I just feel like we're just trapped in amber with Batman, and it's like, you could have done, like, a brighter one, or, like, had it, like, let's have it be a 70s, let's do 70s, but it's influenced by Neil Adams, and it's like, a gritty 70s movie, and it's like, you can still do the dark thing, but have it be a little different, and have it be color, it's like, you could have done something interesting. And I think if you look at Batman, the Batman, the one with like heavy metal music and stuff, I think it's called The Batman, or like Batman Brave and the Bold, they did try to reinvent the character, and I guess they've just realized, well, people just want this, so we're just going to do this. And I understand why they're doing it. But then, okay, so the first one, Penguin being a recast as a woman, I don't on the surface have any real issue with that. I think it's like Doc Ock was recast as a woman, so of course, they're in Spider-Man, so it makes sense, they'll do it with the Batman villain, it's like a thing, that's fine. But it's like, first off, that character doesn't feel like the Penguin, and I get like, it's a gender swap, so like they will be different, but it like really just felt like you wanted to do a different character. So I was kind of confused, like why, like what they're doing with that. And that honestly, like the whole idea of like Penguin has this like ship that like shoots missiles and stuff, and no one can figure out like, why are these buildings exploding, even though every time a building explodes there's a clear missile noise. And I'm just like, what the fuck even is that? Like, it was just so not good. It's like not even really Penguin, and like not even how Penguin would like. I was just like lost on what the point of all, and it was like not a very good episode, and it's not introducing Batman very well, and it was just like very much a mess. And it's like I was like, I don't have an issue with the recast. I do have an issue with like, why is this Penguin? And like there's no, like, the People's Joker did a much better job as like Penguin as like the person who runs an improv than like this that had some of the biggest names in Hollywood and to deal with Batman. And I was just like very lost on what the point was. Like, again, don't have an issue with them making Penguin a woman. I do have an issue with like, this is just a bad version of that character, and it just felt like why is it fucking penguin. Like, I just didn't understand like what they were trying to say with that. It just seemed odd, and like I really didn't get what they were doing with that. It was just like very much like odd. And then the second one, which is about a movie, it's basically the Clayface episode, and it's like this old Hollywood thing. I actually thought that was the best, most solid episode. It was very much, a classic Hollywood kind of tale thing about like this actor who wanted to be a leading man but wasn't. Although that's not totally like what the 40s were. He gave me sort of Paul Mooney vibes, but just like he was an actual leading man who won Oscars and shit. So maybe like I think that was a little silly, but it ultimately very much worked. That episode was actually fairly distinct and tight. I think some animated series writers worked on that one. That one's the only one I'd actually recommend. But then the third one is just frustrating because you have two plot lines that have no business being in the same episode, and both are good actually, but it was like, why are these two together? And I just kept looking at this like, what the fuck is going on right now? Like, so half of it is Bruce Wayne. We start off at this jewelry exhibit. He's showing his mom's jewelry, and this guy makes some shitty comment about his mom. He hits him, and so he has to go to therapy with Harley Quinzel, who doesn't look like she's going to be Harley Quinn, but like that's like, who cares? That doesn't matter. And that's like fine. But then the other part of the episode, I'm not sure which one would be considered A or B plot, but let's say it's the B plot just for shits and giggles, is about Catwoman. Now, Christina Ricci is Catwoman, and I think that was actually smart casting. I was like, that makes total sense. Like, she's part of the Burton thing. And then her Catwoman's like helper, Gertrude, was this one actress who, I forget her name, I apologize. And she was actually in I think John Waters' A Dirty Shame, so it's cool, like two people from John Waters movies together, because Christina Ricci was in Pecker and all that. And that was like, I liked the Catwoman story, and I liked the Batman going into therapy, or thinking about what happened like with his past, and like how what happened with his parents and stuff. And they don't actually show the parents' murder, they just show the effect it had on Bruce, which I thought was actually interesting. But it's like, if they had one where it's like someone who Bruce is dealing with his anger, or doing a specific villain for that, it like had no business being with the Catwoman one. It didn't make any thematic sense. So it's like, you basically had two episodes they mushed together. Maybe in the next one, and a couple of people are mentioning maybe in the next one it would like meant more, but like it really didn't work. And it was like kind of sad, because it's like you had two parts that were good, but they should not be together. And it was just like weird, and I didn't understand what they're really doing. And like, that's the whole thing with this show, is it's like, why is it like animated series but like not, but is? That's odd. And then why, like, some of their motivations just don't make any sense plot-wise, and like it feels like an Abrams thing, because like he's not really good at writing or storytelling, and it's just like, it's very blaringly obvious in certain ones. The second one works because it's distinct, like almost like an animated series, like a classic thing. But my thing with this is like, this is an animated series. Why are you doing that? Why didn't you come up with a distinct thing? And like, Batman and its various interpretations is known for like Adam West, or Christopher Nolan, or Lego Batman, or Brave and the Bold, or animated series, and you bounce around, and this just feels like we're just floating in the air and going absolutely fucking nowhere. And I do not understand what the accomplishes. I don't actually want to keep watching it, because I found it a little frustrating, because I'm just like, where is this like going? Like, what are we doing with this? And I sort of get almost like why Max just went like whatever to it. It seems like marketable, and I get that, but I just really don't get why make it this way. And it's like, I don't know, you could have gone to like, let's do like more of a silent film thing, or you could have, there's certain things you could have done, but it just feels like let's take out some of the Fleischer brothers and like add in more like the crime stuff. But I really don't know what they were doing with this. I like Christina Ricci as Catwoman. I even like the voice of Batman. I like what they're doing with certain things in it. But you really just needed someone who really knew how to tell story in this, and understood what they're doing with these characters and what they're saying with them. And I couldn't figure out that the entire time. I really couldn't. And it just felt like they didn't know what they were saying with it. And it felt like in the original, like with animated series, which they seem super influenced by, or super like indebted to in a lot of ways, like they understood like, we're doing classic detective stories with this kind of Fleischer Brothers style with Batman. And in this, it's like, are you doing detective stories? It just feels like you're doing like dumb superhero shit that's badly told in a lot of ways. And this just isn't like I don't hate the Batman, but it feels like Matt Reeves is just sort of like coasting on the interpretation he's supposed to do, but not moving the character creatively forward. And it just kind of like, you're just sitting there like, well, what are we even like doing with some of this stuff? It felt like something that shouldn't be happening at this point. So I'm excited for whatever the animated show is next after this, but as for it right now, I just found it to be sort of a failure creatively, because it couldn't understand what its point was. And whether you like Nolan or Burton or Joel Schumacher or whomever, they understood what their perspective was and what they were doing creatively. And I think like something like People's Joker, in the same year, People's Joker versus this, People's Joker is like bursting with creativity, and this feels like its creativity was approved by what, you know, Warner's thinks is the right interpretation of Batman that's the most marketable. But I'm not knocking it just because it's marketable. It feels boring, because it feels like I could just be watching an animated series. Why would I watch this over an animated series when it's like the same thing but shittier? I don't want Shasta Cola when I can just get Pepsi right there. And there's like really very little reason for you to watch this show, other than like, it's cool to see Christina Ricci in this, it's cool to see certain things, but overall, is it that more like necessary, or does it make it more relevant or anything like that? Absolutely not. It's just sort of like watching someone, you know, tread water while you're waiting for something else to actually happen. And watching the show, I can tell you, it's like, it's not really exciting to see someone tread water. You're just frankly not drowning. And I don't think watching a Batman show not drown, which it probably does later or something, is that much of an accomplishment. It just sort of feels like a bit of a waste of my fucking time, and probably a waste of yours to deal with a Batman show that's really just not accomplishing anything new creatively for the character, when you could be accomplishing a lot more with a character as interesting as Batman really is.